Hey everyone, it's Mike with It's Pittsfield Tonight. I'm going to jump right into it, and I'm going to start with the bike lanes again on North Street. So many of you saw, I'm sure, the post I put up with the pictures of the flexi poles that were knocked down during our first snowstorm. We had about 6 to 8 inches, something like that, and many of those poles were taken out. And that post got around. And then we all saw yesterday our local publication, I'll call it the Berkshire Bird, did a story on that, a brief piece on that, saying, well, the city says, yes, a couple of them got taken down and it's not really a problem. And then, of course, they used a picture of somebody on a bicycle going the wrong way. They were supposed to be on the other side of the street in the other lane. And I had to laugh because, for one, Ricardo Morales, the head of Public Works, about, I'm going to say a month to 5 weeks ago, somewhere in that range, did a radio interview basically saying, oh, it's not a problem. I know people are saying that's going to be a problem come snow, and it's not. They're designed for that, and yada, yada, all that. I went up there the day of the snowstorm, and I waited, till mid-afternoon when everything was plowed. And I definitely do not blame the people plowing at all. I can't believe that the city would make their job that much more difficult. But I counted, 20 or so of those poles that were on the ground and busted. And then, another 5 or 6 that were cracked or split that were still standing, but they were wrecked. So somewhere between a third to half of those poles were destroyed. And the city's brushing it off like, oh, no big deal. And again, like I said, the Berkshire Bird, whoever they have as a source there with City Hall, there's a connection there somewhere. At least it appears to be that way. They used a picture of somebody going the wrong way down a bike lane. And it just shows that the biggest problem you see in Pittsfield with many things is follow-through. Horrible follow-through. I'll use some other examples other than just the disastrous layout of North Street. The Business Pittsfield website, some of you probably don't even know what that is, but right around the time the pandemic started, they launched this website called Business Pittsfield, and the mayor did this big showing on it, big release launch of it from City Hall, and they brought in balloons and everything. They celebrated before any success or anything. They like to do that, like to toot their own horn and go dancing in the parks and things like that. So they did this big celebration with balloons and how successful this was going to be. And since then, there's been no follow-through on it, no update on it. If you go to the website, I checked it again right before I did this video, the information listed on the front for population, for daytime population, all that is completely outdated. They haven't changed that since they launched the website. Now we also have Love Pittsfield. And as soon as you hear that name, that's another website, Love Pittsfield. I think when I click on it, it's going to have a picture of Chuck Woolery, or maybe it's going to say, where adults go to meet, something like that. I don't know why they chose that horrendous name. And I get that other cities and communities have used that. There's a Love Pittsburgh. So as you're typing in Love Pittsfield, that's one of the things that come up. And then dating sites come up. But where's the follow-through on that? They did a launch from that. I saw that they had some merchandise made. They had some hats. I saw Ricardo Morales was wearing a Love Pittsfield hat. Where's the follow-through? How are they promoting that? Are they waiting for Dennis Quaid to show up and do that $26,000 interview? Or I don't understand. But again, that's another example of follow-through. It's weak at best, and you can say that with a lot of other projects. A year or two ago, they mentioned one of our city councilors, I believe it was Chris Connell, Ward 4, mentioned a project that was supposed to be going in near BCC, and I can't remember if it was a water tower or what it is. It was some type of thing that was going in. They spent over like $100,000 or more on consultants and all these fees, and they just never followed through with it. And it never happened. The project never came to fruition. And you could probably go through an entire list of things like that. that is complete waste, in my opinion. And I know when I initially, a few weeks ago, mentioned the websites, somebody mentioned that, well, that's just peanuts. Well, every peanut on the pile adds up. Absolutely. I mean, when you're managing the city, it's really, here's another one, okay? Somebody asked me yesterday in a comment, what would I do? If I'm going to run for mayor, I must have all the answers. So I assumed the person who asked me that doesn't like me, or they're a big supporter of the current administration, which is fine. But they said, what would I do then? Well, for one, take North Street. The first thing I would have done is when that project was proposed, I would have went and talked to every single business owner on North Street, knowing that we have businesses that have been there for decades, people who know that street better than anybody. I would go and stop and talk to them. This is what we're proposing. What are your ideas? What are your recommendations? What do you think? And then as the project was implemented, if it followed through, check in with them. What's the word on the street? What are you seeing? What are your concerns? What are your customers saying to you? What can we do to improve things? To be an effective leader, because a mayor is technically a figurehead. The mayor's number one responsibility when elected is to put the most qualified people in the department head positions. That's the mayor's first job. Because no mayor is going to be the expert in every department. And then from that point forward, the mayor's job is to be forthcoming with the constituents, to be out there, to be communicating with people, to encouraging community, to be educating people on issues, to encourage people to volunteer for things, bringing community together, being a representative and a face for the city, and being accessible and friendly and inviting. City government should be friendly and inviting. And, you know, one of the things we see here that always irks me is, and you hear it at the city council meetings a lot, whether it be talking about crime, if there's a shooting, you know, one of the counselors will speak up and go, well, isn't it true that there were more shootings somewhere else? Aha, this is a national epidemic. It's always pointing the finger, it could be worse somewhere else. And that's so irresponsible. How do they not see it? It goes back, I've mentioned this before, it reminds me of when you're a little kid and if your parents asked you to clean your room and you tell them, yeah, but my friend's room is twice as dirty as this, so I should be in the clear, right? I mean, don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Worry about what you're doing. Don't worry about what's happening in somebody else's community. Worry about what's happening in your community. And that, to me, when somebody, to answer the question they ask, what would I do? The first step that I would do in that particular situation with North Street would have been to communicate with the business owners on North Street, to communicate with the residents on North Street, to communicate with the commuters on North Street. That's it. You know, you take the situation, Ward 4 again, with the cell tower. Regardless of the mayor's views on that, whether she agreed with those residents up there that have been fighting that cell tower, whether she agreed with them or not, why ignore them? Why refuse to speak to them? And our local publication refuses to, I've never seen them do any journalism, digging into real stories with City Hall. I don't know what it is. We know they have a grudge with the district attorney, so they'll do anything they can on that. But why don't they ever dig into City Hall? And I'm not endorsing or saying anything good or bad about the DA. I've said this before. The time to discuss situations with the district attorney would be when there's an election going on, not when you have not when you're messing with basically public safety. That's not a time to be out there and constantly critiquing. The Berkshire Eagle, like I said, obviously has a grudge against the district attorney. It seems that way anyway. And many people say it was from their endorsement, and then they endorsed her predecessor. And there was some situation on the night she won the election where she didn't allow the reporter to come in and interview her or something like that, and that started the grudge. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's the story that is floated around. As far as with the mayor, you never see anything that is like critiquing these issues. When you take North Street in particular, overwhelmingly the public is disgusted. The business owners are disgusted. The rollout of that whole process with the bike lanes and the parklets was done horribly and was done against the will of the people. And I think almost everybody I've spoke to, and myself, my own views on that are, I'm not against bike lanes. I think it's great that we have the rail trail established, the Ashawiltacook Trail, and, you know, if it's going to connect, then why not use First Street for a bike lane? Why not, if that couldn't work, why not look at Center to Seymour Street? Why not look at other options and make North Street a destination spot? I just don't understand why, when the public was overwhelmingly against that, why they're so insistent on it. And now with those poles being knocked down by the plows on our first storm, it's not a problem, a little bit of this or that. They just brush it off, and the Berkshire Bird covers it. And like I said, look at the picture they put. The irony of that picture is the person traveling in the bike lane on a bicycle is using the wrong lane. They're going the wrong way. So nothing is enforced. There's no follow through. And I'm not necessarily blaming that person on the bicycle, because maybe they were going from one store to the next. Should they have had to cross all the way over across the street, get in another bike lane, and then cross back across? The rollout of it is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And you know, that picture to me just shows all of it, that there's confusion even with the people on bicycles, the few people that do use it. Most of them use the sidewalks still because they feel it's much safer, and I don't blame them. It does not feel safe up there. And I've talked to many people who ride bikes regularly, mainly for exercise, but they're big cyclists, and they wouldn't go there. That's what I hear that all the time. So there's that. But to answer that person's question, that's what I'm summing this all up with, is being communicative with people. When people have questions, respond to them. When people need access to City Hall to talk to them, respond to them. Follow through on programs. If you believe on them so much, if you believe in these programs so much, the bike lanes, these websites, all these other projects that we hear about, follow through. You know, the wastewater treatment plant, the $74 million price tag that kept getting readjusted. People are, I believe, still being billed or on that original number of 74 million. Then a couple of years ago during the last mayoral election, we were told, no, it's actually 50 million. And then that was corrected again by our finance director, who said, well, no, it's not really 50 million. It's only a difference of like maybe 10 million. It's more like 60 to 63 million. And it just, numbers bounced all over the place. Follow through was horrible. And as soon as somebody stopped asking a question, zip, City Hall didn't say a word. Now we have a new issue that no one's discussing, which is our community development director is resigning from her post, and our chair of the Board of Health resigned from her post, Gina Armstrong. So Deanna Rufer and Gina Armstrong now are going to be the co-managers of the $41 million in ARPA funds, American Rescue Plan Act. And a lot of people sent me messages on that, shaking their head, going, what is this all about? This doesn't make any sense. Why? These are the most qualified people for that, so they're resigning from their existing positions to take this. What's going on? I don't know why our local paper didn't do a story on that. Maybe they will. Or how about the fact that I've been told by some teachers off the record at PHS that the boilers aren't working. You have one boiler working, that they have a problem with heat in the schools. No one's talking about that. How come we're not hearing about that? I still get constant messages on situations, fighting and things going on at Taconic. I get constant messages on that. And when I put that information out there, and I'm still not done with the school thing, one of the things I wanted to talk about is that our public schools in Pittsfield for the last 6 or so years are ranked by the state as underperforming. We have the second highest choice out rate in the state. It's costing the city millions and millions of dollars a year of students leaving, teachers leaving. Our teachers still don't have a contract. It's disgusting, some of these things happening. The follow-through and the communication is the worst we've ever seen, in my opinion. So I hope that answers that person's questions. I could go on with a ton more, and I will, not today. So anyway, I'm doing the winter business tour. I put a video up starting yesterday with RJ Store, Diamonds and Fine Jewelry, with the owner, Rick Store. Super nice guy. Great little business. I love it. Just good people and important people in the community. I have a bunch more coming up. Pittsfield Rye Bakery, Currency Coffee Company, Quick Fix Mobile Repair. There's a few of them that I already have scheduled, and I'll be following through with them. The GoFundMe's up. I do twice a year. I do a GoFundMe to keep It's Pittsfield Tonight going. If you can give anything, $5, $10, $1 million, whatever you can give, though, it just helps me to be able to continue this and be able to get out there and cover more stories, boost these videos, gas to travel to go do them, all the equipment needed to do this. But anything you can give is a big help. So that's on the page and going. The website, I can't touch it right now. All my data is being migrated over to another platform, so the website is going to be much better here soon with a big upgrade, but right now it's kind of stagnant. But if you go to itspittsfieldtonight.com, the fundraiser link is also right on the top of that page also. So that is it for now. Everyone stay safe, stay warm, and I'll catch you all in the next day or two.